good evening. You're watching the special COVID broadcast this evening at 6 p.m. I'm Suesha Savant, and as every day today, we once again focus on an angle in the second wave that needs to have questions answered. Yes, we are talking about a possible third wave, and experts have been saying that we need to be ready. But given what we faced in the second wave, how is it that we can be better prepared? What is it that we need to do? How will the intensity of the third wave pan out? To answer all these questions, we have a special panel of guests joining us this evening. I'd quickly like to introduce them. Dr. Yatharth Tyagi, he's the director of Yatharth Group of Hospitals. Dr. Shashank Joshi, he's the member of the Maharashtra COVID Task Force. Dr. Surbhi Madan, she's from CIMS Ahmedabad, an infectious diseases consultant. And Dr. Ajay Handya, he's a senior consultant pulmonary medicine and interventional pulmonologist from Sakra World Hospital. Very good evening and thank you once again for joining us here on Republic. Dr. Yatharth, if I could get the first question that our viewer has sent us. This is about that the cases in the second wave of the pandemic are now plateauing. But does this mean we can afford to let our guard down?
But it does not mean that the guard should be down. It means that the basic protocols as like wearing masks, maintaining social distancing, avoiding gatherings, these should be followed. The reason is that we have already seen what happened in the last wave. The second wave, a big reason of its spreading was after the first wave, people got relaxed, they kept their guards down. People were celebrating festivals all together, there was large gathering. So we have seen what it leads to. And to stop the potential of the third wave, even though I personally feel and a lot of experts are feeling that the chances are very less, however, we need to be extremely cautious about it, both medical infrastructure as well as taking precautions, it should be continued.
All right. And if I can take the second question to Dr. Shashank, this is again a question a viewer has sent us. That in the second wave, we saw a shortage of oxygen. Now, what could be the possible challenges in the third wave?
Ji, thank you so much. I think in the third wave, we have to be better prepared on pandemic preparedness, whether it is oxygen, whether it is healthcare supplies, whether it's healthcare personnel. I think right now we are wiser and ready. And I don't think the shortages which we saw due to a tsunami like Delta strain would be seen in the third wave. It is likely that the third wave will be mutated. We'll have a large population having exposure naturally as well as through vaccination. And it's probably another 3 to 6 months away. So I don't see that we will see that type of a shortage because we are reasonably self-reliant now. And most of the hospitals where it matters, there will be oxygen generating units. So I think we are going towards an oxygen sufficiency. So I don't think there should be any cause of panic and concern.
All right. I'd like to move on to Dr. Surbhi Madan. Now, a lot is being said, doctor, about how the third wave could possibly impact children, although some experts have dismissed this. What is it in your opinion? Which are the most vulnerable groups in the possible third wave?
Thanks, Suesha. So, see, what we are seeing till now is that children have been the most protected population. So the severity of active or acute COVID has not been that much as compared to adults. But yes, in the children, what we have been seeing is a syndrome called MIS-C, that is multi-system inflammatory syndrome. Now, that is a syndrome which happens actually long after the patients have recovered from COVID. The children have recovered from COVID. So that is one syndrome which we are really worried about in children. But till now, what we have seen is that children are actually protected from severity in COVID when we are talking about acute COVID. Now, our Indian Academy of Pediatrics has actually released a statement, if all of us must read it, that yes, we are worried about our children getting affected in the third wave because that is the population which is still not fully immune. Vaccination has not been yet started in children. So definitely we are worried about our children. But till now, as we don't have any signs or any evidence of very severe disease in children, we are not that much worried. But yes, we are really looking forward to vaccinate our children as early as possible. Thank you.
Right, and picking up from that point, I also want to go to Dr. Ajay Handa because Dr. Handa, we are assuming that more and more people will be vaccinated by that time. But then again, from the first wave to the second wave, one couldn't really preempt that the second wave could be so deadly and the intensity could be so strong. So, given the facts on the table now, how can we be better prepared for the third wave and how bad can it be? Do we know anything at this stage given the mutations and even how the vaccines need to be upgraded, so on and so forth?
So, thank you for your question. There are multiple issues to your question. The part about how should we learn the lessons that we have learned from this pandemic. The initial focus of vaccination was on the healthcare workers, the other frontline workers, the aged population. So in this particular wave, we found that those who were unvaccinated, the population under 50, they came up with severe disease. So the lesson is that vaccination improves the body's ability to handle COVID infection and makes the disease milder, and need for hospitalization is reduced, and almost chances of going on to ventilator and dying are taken away. So the lesson is broaden the vaccination as much as possible, as far as possible, and to give the vaccine to maximum number of people. Studies are ongoing, as the doctor said, about the pediatric age group, so they should be started as soon as the data is available regarding use of Covaxin in children. Regarding the second part of your question, whether vaccine covers the mutant strains. So we have all been vaccinated mostly with Covishield vaccine, and the data is enough saying that it does cover the mutant strain, and it prevents the disease from becoming severe. Infection cannot be prevented, hence we have seen cases coming up with reinfection, but most reinfections have been very, very mild. A few of them have required hospitalization, but luckily no mortality. It does cover the mutant strain, and the vaccines will be tweaked in the coming year to become more and more efficacious. So all the vaccines available, both Covishield and Covaxin, in the laboratory cover the mutant strains floating in our country, including the new mutant strain in our country.
All right. All right. I want to move on to Dr. Yatharth with the next question that has been sent to us by another viewer. The question is, what are the lessons from the second wave for the possible third wave? And I'd also like to add, Doctor, that one had not expected to see this in the second wave. The challenges were very different from what we saw in the first wave, especially the dependence on oxygen support and ICU beds was far higher. So how is it that we are preempting what a third wave would be like and what we would need in the third wave?
See, I think when it comes to lessons learned from the first wave, I think definitely there are a lot of lessons to be learned, especially for the hospitals, both private as well as the government hospitals. So definitely the oxygen management. So what we mean by oxygen management is the amount of storage that each hospital has. That is very important to note down, because there were a lot of COVID hospitals which were given, permission to turn to COVID even without them having a liquid oxygen storage tanker. It is very difficult to manage hospitals when they are running on just cylinder-based oxygen. So it is important for only those hospitals which have a central supply of liquid oxygen and the liquid storage tank. Only they should be treating COVID, because what happens is the cylinders-based oxygen supply in hospitals, that tends to run out very fast. The amount of consumption that cylinders do require is a lot, and it's very difficult to keep on changing them the whole day. So that is, I think, very important lesson that needs to be taken by the administration. Second thing is definitely the drugs, the medicines that are used. Now, if we are suspecting a lot of young population case of COVID coming in the third wave, then it has to be understood the medications for young adults, which needs to be timely secured. The supply should not stop what's happened in the second wave, and it led to a lot of issues, not just in the supply chain, but also for cases of we saw black marketing of medicines. So all these things can only be avoided if a adequate supply of medicines are kept, keeping in mind the age of the COVID cases. So then these two lessons are definitely the most important to go by.
All right, all right. And Dr. Shashank, I also want to come to you with the next question, especially how we've seen the success of the Mumbai model. The question is, how can we ensure the mitigation of third wave impact?
So I think the success of the Mumbai model was on decentralization, empowering each ward. It was all about coordinated effort. It was all about assessing, and also it was all about not forgetting the basis. See, we still need to continue a high level of testing. We can't ignore testing. We will need to keep testing throughout the. Whenever there is a peak, we need to test. But even when we are at the bottom, we need to test. So our testing needs to be very high. We still need to test, isolate, treat continuously so that we can handle the third wave impact much better and in a more granular way. We definitely need decentralization. Even if you see the easing of restrictions or the unlocking restrictions are all very decentralized. And we know that, we have three challenges. Number one, we need the test positivity rate to be persistently below 5% for more than 2 weeks. We need to ensure that at least 70% of the geography for that given district or zone should be below more than 70%, which is the biggest challenge which we have. In the next 3 months, we have to ensure that the saturation is done of that population. And the third thing is we should have zero tolerance for people who don't follow COVID appropriate behavior, and we should avoid crowding and social gatherings at any cost. And I think if we follow that for the next 3 to 6 months, we are reasonably certain that even if a third wave comes, we'll be able to take the sting out of it. Because the whole idea is to avoid zero deaths we should have, and we should avoid serious cases which are happening. And that looks to be a realistic possibility as long as we are able to get the vaccination in order.
Very rightly pointed out. That is extremely important, and I think every individual needs to be responsible himself or herself to understand that we can collectively do this. On that note, I want to move on to Dr. Surbhi with the next question, which Dr. Surbhi, a lot of people are asking now. Will post-COVID complications further burden health infrastructure? Especially how we are seeing a rise in the black fungus cases, then white fungus and yellow fungus, and especially the post-COVID effects given the use of steroids. So is this further adding to the burden?
Of course, Suyesha, see, it's not will. Actually, we are already seeing so many post-COVID complications. Actually, it's overwhelming. So starting from the post-COVID inflammatory fever to multi-system inflammatory syndrome to a lot of post-COVID infections, starting from the common bacterial infections to severe infections like mucormycosis. Even tuberculosis also has increased significantly after COVID, especially in those patients where steroids are used. And of course, not to forget the post-COVID lung injury, which actually leads to lung fibrosis. And there are so many patients who become oxygen dependent. So basically, what we need to do is that we need to vaccinate the patients, vaccinate our population as early as possible so that the COVID goes down and hence we can avoid the post-COVID complications. Right now, our main chunk of patients in the hospital is post-COVID complication patients. COVID wards are not, they are like empty, but our post-COVID complication patients with all these kind of bad fevers and infections, it's overwhelming, it's too much. So definitely it is going to be a burden to the healthcare. And, in fact, the other organ systems like cardiac complications, patients with MIs and patients with myocarditis, even neurological complications, they have increased so much that we are really facing major challenges managing these kind of patients right now.
In fact, Dr. Surbhi, this is also the next question that a viewer has asked. If I can take this to Dr. Ajay Handa. The question is, with speedy vaccination, can we evade the third wave?
I didn't get you. Which vaccination?
Like Dr. Surbhi pointed out that it is important that a majority population gets vaccinated, and that will help reduce the burden as far as the third wave is concerned. Now, a viewer is also asking that if vaccination drive is expanded, if there is speedy vaccination, then is it possible to evade the third wave completely?
So that's a beautiful point. But considering the numbers that we have to vaccinate still, it's a possibility that we may be able to reach only part of the numbers. Like the figure mentioned is 60 to 70% of population vaccination coverage is required to prevent a third wave. So as of now, we have 13% of our population who has received the first dose, and about 3 to 4% of our population who has received both the doses. The figure stands at a astounding 24 crore people, but our country's population is so huge that vaccination coverage of the entire nation will take time. It can be expedited with the vaccine availability expected to be there in the month of June onwards from July, and by August we will be self-sufficient with the numbers of vaccines, so vaccination can be scaled up. But the wave can be tapered, but probably not avoided in toto. So all precautions need to continue, and we need to, continue upping the vaccination with the availability of the other vaccines like Sputnik from Russia.
All right. And Dr. Yatharth, if I can come back to you, because our next viewer question is, will vaccinating children ensure that the impact on children is mitigated?
I think any vaccine, any COVID vaccine, when it is administered, we have seen results that it does mitigate the impact, especially in the case of adults. In case of children, we are expecting that there is research going on, and the Covaxin, I hope when soon it will be ready for the trials in children, we would be able to see those results. But as of now, it is we definitely do expect that, because we did see a lot of adults when they were administered with vaccine and they did come to the hospital. The number of ICU admissions really decreased. The number of even population that was required to get hospitalization after vaccination was definitely reduced. So we are hoping, and the team results will be in children as well.
All right, I want to thank all you doctors for speaking to us on Republic this evening. I hope that answers a lot of questions for our viewers when we are talking about a possible third wave. But then again, a point that all of you make, it is extremely important for us individuals to be responsible, to not get complacent, to ensure that we follow all COVID protocols. Only then can we collectively fight this together. Thank you once again to all of you for speaking to us.
Thank you.